YouTube, what is happening? All right, so I am in Richmond, Virginia this week, and obviously recording my weekly YouTube video. And I like to do these off the cuff. I don't like to script these. I don't like to overly complicate what I'm trying to do. So for me, being on this long form channel, obviously being YouTube, I like to just kind of go with it. I like to kind of talk about a topic during the week that either I'm going through, I feel like it's relatable for the viewers out there, or I'm seeing a lot of the same issues with my clients during the week, and then I kind of want to address that. And this week, what I want to talk about is getting yourself in phenomenal shape by bringing down your body fat, whether that is dropping a few pounds, whether that's dropping, 20 plus pounds, whether that is getting yourself to some targeted numbers like men, maybe sub 12 or 10%, for women, maybe sub 20, sub 18. And in order to do that, you have to be able to master some of the basics. And I want to talk about my 5 basic principles and non-negotiables that I like to include in a fat loss phase. And for me, if you guys don't know, I work with a lot of men and women 35 plus, 40 plus, and the number one thing that I see with all of them is they think that getting themselves down to certain percentages in body fat is impossible. And I get it. I mean, you've got a job, you're highly stressed, maybe you have kids that are running around driving you nuts, you have a slow metabolism from, eating like a bird and running like a horse for years, right? Maybe you've tried all types of diets, you've tried crazy cardio, insane training programs, and maybe even included fasting, and none of this works, right? Because you're not giving it either A, enough time to work, or B, you're not doing it right, which is what I see a lot. And I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I've taken myself and hundreds of clients from, anywhere from 30 to 40% body fat all the way down to these low target numbers that we've talked about. And I'm actually about to do this again. I'm in the process right now of ripping down all my body fat, so when I am able to kind of reverse out here in about another month or so, I'm excited to get back in the gym. Well, I'm pretty much done my rehab with my shoulder. Now I'm starting to train. So what I'm trying to do is get myself crazy lean. What we call this in bodybuilding world is dick skin lean. And I want to get dick skin lean so that way in about another month and a half, when I'm able to start pushing the intensity a little bit, I can start reversing out. And reversing out and gaining tissue, for a lot of people out there that don't know this, the best way to do that is to get yourself crazy lean. And getting yourself crazy lean will change your entire fucking life, I promise you, in every aspect. So I want to get into these 5 kind of like non-negotiables, these 5 staples that I use myself and my clients. But at any point during this video, you feel like you want a little bit more help, you want some one-on-one guidance, I'm going to drop a link below. If you want to click that link, you can book a call with me and we can talk about what this may look like for you on a more personal, detailed, and custom level. So the first thing I want to talk about, the first order of business, the first non-negotiable, the first staple is going to be mastering the deficit. Realistically, fat loss starts here. It doesn't stop here, it starts here. So you can either burn more calories than you consume, or you stay soft, period. So at the end of the day, being in a caloric deficit is what is gonna bring your body fat down. Now, that doesn't mean you need to starve. I'm not saying cut your calories down to some ungodly low levels, because if you do that, you're gonna crash. And the reason a lot of people crash when they try to learn their deficit is because they go into the cut too hard, too aggressive, too fast, and they're not fueling themselves enough. And there is a very fine line when you're in a caloric deficit. I keep my deficit small. So when you first start off, you can cut your calories depending on how high you are, pretty drastic, but I like to stay around a 400 to 600 calorie deficit. And that is basically 400 to 600 calories below my maintenance caloric intake. That is enough to lose about a pound a week, maybe 20 to 25 pounds over 6 months, which when you really break it down is insane. And that is a real and sustainable goal. Dropping your caloric intake just by a few hundred calories is sustainable and repeatable. Do not get aggressive. There's people out there that are like, yeah, I'm 1,000 calories below deficit, 1,500 calories. It's way too much. So you want to be able to find your maintenance, and then you want to subtract about 400, maybe 500 calories or so below that maintenance and run that for a few weeks. Capitalize on that small change. Capitalize and maximize on getting those numbers dialed in and being consistent with it. You'll see that through this whole video, consistency is going to honestly be the key. One of the tools that you can use when it comes to mastering the deficit is I have a lot of clients, especially 40 and over, that like to do, they call it intermittent fasting. I like to call it time restricted feeding, but they push their meals back a little bit and they may eat within a designated window. Anywhere from an 8 to 12 hour window a day can kind of help you stay within this deficit. So fasting, quote unquote, is a tool that you can use here to make things relatively simple. And I don't incorporate fasting because it's magic. I incorporate fasting because it does help minimize your food window, and it helps cut down on a lot of these decisions that get a lot of these people stuck. So just skip breakfast, push your meals back by a couple hours, maybe start eating around 11 or noon, and then stay within, an 8 to 12 hour window there. And the other thing that I like about fasting is it doesn't necessarily take as much willpower as it does by just governing your food throughout the day, because like I said, it helps you make fewer decisions. So, fasting is a good tool, but at the end of the day, you have to master your deficit. Find your maintenance caloric intake, break it down, figure out what your macros are. Once you figure out a good flow in your macros, at that point, now you can run yourself into, a good fat loss phase that is sustainable and repeatable. We can talk about durations and all that. Maybe I'll do another video. Now, that's what I have to say about the deficit. Now, the second staple, the second non-negotiable that I like to incorporate when it comes to bringing your body fat down is simplifying nutrition. And this one's huge. I consider myself a nutrition first coach, and I think most people fail because they turn nutrition into rocket science. And you don't need to turn nutrition into rocket science. You don't need 6 meals a day. You don't need to eat out of these crazy fancy Tupperware glass containers, live off a spreadsheet. You really just need structure and consistency here. I tell my clients this: eat like an adult, use whole foods, make sure you're prioritizing lean protein sources. You want to eat good, clean, digestible carbs. You want to have good, healthy fats, and you want to be able to have all these in moderation, and of course that fits your macros. But simplify it. Don't try to go out there and look for all these bullshit recipes and just try to get crazy creative. Stick to the basics. The basics work. Whole food is amazing. You get good quality lean meats in, you get good fruits in, you get good vegetables in, you're getting good carbs like jasmine rice, potatoes, quinoa, sourdough bread, fats, you're looking at avocados, nuts, oils, animal fat. You want really good, clean macros. So use good quality food sources here. And you want to make sure that you're prioritizing your protein. That is also something that I see people when it comes to nutrition. Their protein intake is so freaking low. So build every meal based off of protein. Find your protein intake for the day, break it up evenly into however many meals you want, and then that is where I would start. You can keep carbs mostly around training. Your other meals, you can, throw fats around, which is fine. Utilize the carbs during the window that you need it, which is going to be during and around training. You want to make sure that you're also staying hydrated when it comes to nutrition. You're going to get a lot of hydration from like fruits and other stuff, but you want to make sure that you are drinking enough water, making sure you are hydrating, so getting your electrolytes in. I have my clients, try to stick to around a gallon minimum a day. Hydration is key. Hydration does a lot. It controls hunger, it controls energy, it aids in recovery, and half the time people think that they're hungry, they're actually just dehydrated and thirsty. So when you feel like you're insanely hungry, pound a little bit of water, give it a couple minutes, see how you feel. Usually that does the trick and can hold you over to that next meal. Like I said, keep food simple, repeat it daily, be consistent, and make it easy to track. Again, use the basic food groups. Don't get overly complicated. As you get leaner, as you start getting more advanced, you can start dabbling in a few more things, but the basics work. If you come out of the gate and you nail the basics and you are running through the basics consistently, you are going to see insane improvement. And you want to be able to, again, have the foods that you enjoy that you can repeat daily. That is huge. And when you eat clean, up to 90% of the time, realistically, if you fall off for 10%, it's not going to hurt you. What hurts you is when you fall off track for an entire weekend, an entire 2-3 days, and you just say fuck it and you just do whatever you want, and then you try to come back on Monday and clean it up. That doesn't work. The next step that I think is super important is movement and training with intensity. I aim to get around 9,000 to 10,000 steps a day. I don't necessarily include cardio in those steps, but that's my base, and that is what keeps me lean all year round. Is I am very religious and consistent on my steps. Walking keeps fat loss steady and without crushing your recovery. Walking is very, very easy. You get up and you move, period. Don't get stuck into a step goal that you're so obsessed with, but be active. Make sure you're at least getting your 8,000 to 9,000, maybe 10,000 steps a day. Be consistent with that. Just doing that alone for most people, because when they come to me, they're at like 2,000 to 3,000 steps. All I do is increase their step count to around 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, right? We start kind of low and we start building up. And fat loss starts happening almost immediately because it is a very sustainable and repeatable way to keep your body moving and bring that metabolism up. So again, make sure you move, make sure you track your steps. Training 3 to 4 days a week with purpose. I'm not talking about going in there and going through the motions. Go in there and fucking train hard. Do yourself a freaking service and push your fucking self in the gym. Train, get yourself sweaty, get yourself uncomfortable. Really test your limits. The harder you train, the more you're going to progress, period. If you go through the motions and you feel the same way when you leave the gym as you walked into the gym, you didn't work out hard enough. And I'm only asking you for 3 to 4 days a week. That's all I train. But when I train hard, and I train hard as fuck. And that is insanely important. Don't go to the gym just to go through the motions. Go to the gym to actually train and seek progress. Track your lifts. Push yourself close to failure on a lot of your sets. Like, I actually really fucking train here, guys. You know, I was saying, you know, if you're going to go to the gym, make sure you change the color of your t-shirt. Really push yourself here. Focus on getting stronger over time. Every couple weeks, add a little bit of weight, test yourself, try to get stronger. You want to put on a little bit of tissue. You don't need to be some big jacked bodybuilder, but 1 pound of muscle at rest burns 50 calories a day. So putting on a little bit of muscle does help your metabolism. So this combo of, you know, walking daily and tracking your steps and training hard with intent changes everything. So you stay leaner longer, you get tighter, and you're healthier without burning out. So get your movement in. Get your training in. More often, I see people just training like pansies. Lift hard. Go to the gym and actually fucking train. The fourth kind of pillar here that I want to talk about, which is probably in my mind the piece of the puzzle that most people skip out on, is sleep and recovery. These are huge because let me put it to you like this. You can eat perfect. You can train like an athlete, but if you're sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, you're wasting all of your effort. Your body does not change in the gym. In the gym, you are breaking your muscle tissues down. You are doing damage to the body, which is what we want, right? You are creating, you know, not just damage, but an inflammatory response, which we do want. But when you're sleeping, when you're resting, that is when the body looks for work. That is when the muscles build. That is when the body fats burn. That's when the hormones come up. That's when your body recovers, or what I like to call recharging the batteries. Because sleep controls everything here, guys. Hormones, cravings, focus, recovery, tissue. It does everything. When you are sleeping, it's like putting your car in the garage, putting your car in the body shop. It's getting repaired. That is the most important thing that I can stress here, is that you need to take the time to recover and repair your body. I shoot for 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Try to get off my phone and all my screens about an hour before I go to bed. I take magnesium. I get my electrolytes in. I set my room temperature cold. I set it up to how I know is going to be prime sleep hygiene for me. I go to bed at the same time every night, and I get up at the same time every morning. So, you know, again, these are just some things that you might want to incorporate to try to work on getting better sleep, because, I mean, recovery is not being lazy. Recovery is what I like to call performance management. The more you can recover, the more you're going to progress, period. And the fifth pillar staple here that is literally not rocket science either. This is very, very basic. Stop starting over. You have to learn to be consistent. And this is, again, where most people fail. I feel like these 5 pillars, if done consistently, are game changers, but for some reason, nobody wants to stick to all 5 of these. They fail because of it. This is normally what happens, is people crush the program for like 2 weeks. Then they miss a weekend. They fall off. Then they want to restart every Monday. They do this for years upon years and then wonder why they're not getting progress. And that's because there's no consistency there. And I'm not looking for you when you work with me to be perfect. I just want you to stop quitting and starting over. You can fuck up. You can make a mistake, but learn from it. Learn to get back on that horse and keep going forward. Don't fuck up on Wednesday and say, all right, well, I fucked up the whole week. I'll start again on Monday. No, maybe you messed up a meal. Maybe you messed up one thing. Not a problem. You still get right back to that next meal. Get right back to that next training, because progress happens when you're consistent long enough for it to compound. So if you're perfect through the week, be perfect through the weekend. Then you get perfect for the next week. That's 12 days right there. Get into the second weekend. There are 14 days. You get through the weekends, your weeks are going to be easy peasy, and then you're going to start to see the progress compound. When you see progress during the week and then you tank it on the weekend and then you try to pick back up on the week again, it's frustrating. It is annoying. You don't want to do that. And we are too old. You know, again, I work with 35, 40 and over. Like, we're too old to do this shit. In your 30s and 140s and you're starting over every Monday, you're 100% not doing it right. You can, like I said, you can mess meals up, you can skip workouts, but don't disappear from the program. Stay in the game, be consistent, own the fact you fucked up, and then have the dedication, the drive, the integrity to get right back at it that next meal, that next training session, that night for sleep. Get back in there. Do not disappear and don't quit, because that's why I made the title of the company, you know, the name of the company, TPC, time, patience, consistency. Because if you can give things time, you can be patient, and you can learn to be consistent, you're going to always win, period. And that's realistically the 5 main pillars that is going to get you in great shape and drop your body fat. It doesn't sound like much, but if you implement these 5 steps over and over and over and you're consistent, you're not going to need to add in hacks. You're not going to need to add in some crazy shit to change the trajectory. You're not going to have to second guess the muscles, confuse the muscles. Like, just daily execution of the basics, guys, is what we want. So that's the blueprint. That is the blueprint for getting yourself in phenomenal shape. The 5 steps that actually work. And this is the same framework that I'll be following again right now for myself, that I follow with all my clients that come to me that want to get in great shape, drop a lot of body fat. And like I said, if you want help with this on a one-on-one level, there's a link below. You can click that. I'm more than happy to jump on a call with you and see what this type of layout would look like for you. So let's get you dialed in, start sticking to the basics, quit starting over on the weekends, find a plan that is sustainable and repeatable for you, whether that's something you do on your own, whether that's something you do with a coach, which is what I highly recommend, but keep moving forward every single day. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.